When it comes to certain people, places, and certain topics, respect has to be given if respect is expected in return. The moment criticism becomes personal, the moment debate turns into ridicule, that's when motives begin to change. And once motives change, intentions become a whole lot easier to see. Now, as far as this ongoing conversation surrounding cooperation with the authorities is concerned, I know that feeling firsthand. I was once given up to the federales in exchange for someone else's freedom. And what made that situation sting even more was the fact that I'd done absolutely nothing with the people who spoke my name. We weren't friends, we weren't partners, or associates. Truth be told, though, we barely knew each other at all, so no, I'm not exactly a fan of anybody who plays that game. The streets have always operated under what people call an unwritten code. Funny thing about unwritten rules is they're unwritten. There isn't a handbook, there isn't a contract, there isn't a classroom where everybody raises right hand and swears allegiance to street politics. So when those rules get ignored, bent, broken, or abandoned, you'll hear people say, the streets are a myth. Maybe they are, maybe they aren't. But here's the part that always catches my attention. Many of the loudest voices speaking on street business are often people who would have never chosen that life for themselves in the first place. For them, it's content, it's entertainment, it's another headline, another documentary, another comment section debate. Meanwhile, the people who actually live through those experiences are often speaking to an audience with no frame of reference whatsoever. Then comes the dangerous assumption. The assumption that cooperating somehow erases what a person is capable of doing, as if paperwork changes history, as if statements erase reputation, as if consequences suddenly disappear. Reality doesn't always work like that. The only thing cooperation truly destroys is credibility. Period. Nothing else. That remains exactly where it was before. People remain people. Histories remain histories. Capabilities don't simply evaporate because somebody decided to cross over to the other side of the coin. And that's why disrespect becomes dangerous. Because too many people speak as though consequences no longer exist. As though words carry no weight. As though everybody receiving criticism is willing to simply nod their head and keep moving. History says otherwise. Street politics have always been a dangerous game because ego convinces people that words don't matter, right up until the moment they do. Respect costs nothing. Disrespect can become very expensive. And the truth is that street life is bad business all the way around. There are no clean victories, very few happy endings, and enough regret to fill entire neighborhoods. But if you're discussing a world that other people actually live through, a certain level of respect should accompany the conversation. Because whether the streets are a myth or not, the consequences attached to them really are. Then some might ask, why don't you just get over it? Which translated another way means, why don't you overlook what you've already moved past? Kind of like saying, if it doesn't apply, let it fly. But in street culture, warnings were never about holding grudges. They were about preventing mistakes. The purpose wasn't revenge. The purpose was information. The purpose was making sure somebody didn't unknowingly walk into something that could be detrimental to their freedom, their well-being, or their future. Of course, if the message is to stay away from street business altogether, then having a lookout serves no purpose anyway. At that point, you have to ask yourself, what exactly is the message? What exactly is the motive? See, winter coats come with gloves, scarves, hats, heat in the home. Some things naturally belong together. oil and water don't. No matter how many times you shake the bottle, eventually they'll separate and reveal what they always were. So what does any of this have to do with content? Everything. In the early days of hip-hop, young people became obsessed with a new sound that looked like us, talked like us, and belonged to us. First we wanted to hear it, then we danced to it, then we memorized every word, then we sang it back to ourselves. Out of that came the legends, the songs that would become permanent fixtures in our lives. Now fast forward 30 or 40 years, social media exists, cameras exist everywhere. Media became social and content became currency. So why wouldn't I want to see footage of Big Daddy Kane in the studio recording classics? Why wouldn't I want to watch LL Cool J creating records that helped shape an entire culture? Why wouldn't I want footage of Public Enemy building songs that changed the way people thought? Our ears have become eyes. We want to see what we once only wanted to hear. And that's true beyond music. Take Chaka Khan. Will she ever create a song bigger or better than I'm Every Woman? Maybe, maybe not. But whatever comes next will have to compete against the memory of why people fell in love with her in the first place. The same applies to every legacy act. It's why YouTube continues to survive across generations. Their music refuses to age. Because when an artist creates something new decades later, that new creation must stand beside the reason we loved them in the first place. And if it can't, it usually doesn't make the set list. Then comes content, the labor of love, the business of visibility. Seeing is believing. We used to say it as children. Today, it's become policy. If younger generations can't see it, many won't believe it happened. And if they don't believe it happened, they won't subscribe to it. They won't buy it. They won't share it. They won't care. What isn't seen increasingly doesn't exist. Imagine footage of every chart-topping rapper from the 80s and 90s sitting behind the mixing board, standing inside the vocal booth listening to beats for hours, searching for the exact words that would eventually become classics. That's a documentary people will watch repeatedly. Take Jay-Z and the 30th anniversary of Reasonable Doubt. The mythology surrounding that album has become almost as important as the music itself. The industry didn't want him, so he bet on himself. 30 years later, the story remains legendary. Now imagine if cameras had captured everything. The producers building the beats, Jay sitting silently while an instrumental loops endlessly through the speakers. The process, the thought, the creation, the moments between the moments. People would watch that once, then twice, maybe a third time. Because what isn't seen often isn't heard. And what isn't heard eventually stops existing. Now take that same idea and apply it to street culture, but think content. Before authorities build a case, someone first has to be under surveillance. And in an era where everyone carries a camera, surveillance has become voluntary. Content. I'm Little Sean, and these are the smoke signals.